connected to every single individual in Africa. Why is this really important? We'll find out here today. What does it do for our identity, our culture, and our future? We'll find out here today. But convening this panel, I'd like to introduce, first of all, one who's supposed to be a panel member, but had been given a different cloak to what the moderator. Distinguished guest, ladies and gentlemen, it's a profound honor to present a leader whose life's work serves as a leading bridge between the African continent and its global diaspora. Known traditionally as Nana Akosua Sewa Sioyo the First. I hope I got it right. I've been going back and forth with this for a while, so if I got it right, please let me hear, and then you can put your hands together for me. It's not easy. Well, she's a visionary educator and a president of the African American Association of Ghana, AAG or Triple AG. A graduate of the W.E.B. Du Bois Department at UMass, and also a doctoral candidate at the University of Ghana. She carries forward a majestic legacy of service as the great-granddaughter of the historic Mississippi philanthropist T.J. Huddleston Sr. As an installed queen mother in Ejisu and Benassi, the storied home of Yasantua, she moves with both traditional authority and a modern mandate to foster cultural continuity and economic empowerment for all who seek their way home. Now, here's the thing we want to know about our de facto moderator today. Beyond her role, her royal and civic duties, Nana Akosua is a champion of transformative education, technological advancement, and also she's the director of admissions at Garden City University. She has broken barriers for underserved students, facilitating over $1 million in scholarships and mentoring scholars forward towards the world's most elite Ivy League institutions. Her commitment, though, to the future is equally evident in her role as co-founder of the Youth Institute of Science and Technology, an initiative aimed at bridging the equity gap in STEM education in Ghana. Please join me in a warm and distinguished welcome for Nana Akosua Sewa Sioyo the First. And she will be our moderator for the second panel. Nana, it's a pleasure to meet you. Thank you very much. You will sit this way. Yes. Now let's constitute this panel, because we can't leave Nana alone, can we? She would have to be accompanied by other like-minded people that can think along the trajectory of pushing Africa's agenda forward. Joining in is an internationally respected scholar, educational philosopher, and humanitarian strategist dedicated to the intellectual, spiritual, economic, and cultural rebirth of humanity. He is widely known for his visionary leadership in transformative education and character-based leadership development across Africa and the global diaspora. He serves as a co-founder and principal architect, along with Professor Angela L. Harris, of several global initiatives, including Humanity Intellectual Academy and College, the Blackwood Worldwide Institute of Change, and the Black IL, Kings and Queens Worldwide. Through these platforms, he has helped build an innovative educational ecosystem that blends intellectual excellence, moral values, humanitarian service, and global leadership. Beyond education, though, I'm referring to an individual that you will definitely be happy to hear from. He goes by the name Professor Majid Musa. Deeply known in humanitarian and diplomatic work, including scholarship programs, boarding school development, economic empowerment, Pan-African unity, and global peace ambassador training. Help me welcome Professor Majid Musa. Don't you like his outfit? The outfit is outfitting, as we say lately. Beautiful. Thanks so much for joining us, Prof. All right, so let me see who else we have on board today to join the panel. Let me invite with all the honor, a distinguished scholar, a linguistic and Pan-African leader, Obembo Obadele Bakari Kambon. Now, hold on. I'll tell you more about him though, before the applause goes out. Now, a world-renowned master linguist and a multi-award-winning academic, he is the architect of Abibitumi, the oldest and largest Black social education network on the planet. Dr. Kambon earned his PhD in linguistics from the University of Ghana, winning the Vice Chancellor's Award for Best PhD Thesis in the Humanities, and has received numerous honors, including the Kwame Nkrumah Award for Pan-African Leadership and the Marcus Mozagave Foundation Award for Excellence in African Studies and Education. He has served as Associate Professor, Head of Language, Literature and Drama Section at the University of Ghana's Institute of African Studies, and Editor-in-Chief of the Ghana Journal of Linguistics. It would interest you to know that I am following in your shadows just slightly when I do what I do on the radio called Lingo, where we learn languages from one another. So it's a pleasure to meet you. Let me help you understand what he does. Beyond academia, he has been instrumental in helping members of the African diaspora reconnect with their heritage through Repatriate to Ghana.com and the Decade of Our Repatriation initiative, facilitating citizenship for hundreds of Black individuals and shaping Ghana's official diaspora engagement policy. His groundbreaking work in African linguistics, Black liberation studies, and diaspora empowerment continues to inspire generations, including me. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome with a resounding applause, Professor Obadele Kambon. I see what gets in there with our panel. It's a very powerful group. Now, also joining in the same spirit, I'd like to invite a hotelier and designer and founder, CEO, and creative director of Asaase. It's a healing and restoration center. Why? Because Africa needs some sort of healing, don't we? Yes, we do. A Black-centered community in Marrakesh, Morocco, dedicated to creating a safe space for Africans and African diaspora. She holds a BA, Bachelor's of Arts degree in Sociology at New York University, and 2 master's degrees in History and Social Justice Education. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome with a resounding applause, Tanisha Bowers. Right, so I'm pretty sure that the job is already cut out for them, and the time is not on their side, so they'll just get along with it. They're going to be speaking on the theme, 400 years on, what have we learned? Black legacy and Africa's future, memory, identity, and power.
So thank you. So welcome everyone. Again, I'm Nana Akosia, and thank you to our panelists for joining us. I just went from being a panelist to facilitator, but I think everything is in divine order. So the first question, when we look at the topic, what have we learned from 400 years? I would like for you all to speak on this 400 years, what it means to you. How can we demystify the 400 years or even correct that perception of 400 years? So I'll pass the mic to anyone that is interested in taking this on.
Thank you so much. I am humbly honored to be among these amazing, innovative personalities. Yeah, to me, 400 years is experience, is emotional, is spiritual, and innovative because of many years ago, that is why we have lights. Because of many years ago, that is why we have everything that we are seeing today. So that's why I say it's more innovative, it's more spiritual and emotional. Yes, that's what I can say.
Okay, I'll go.
Amen.
All right. Probably the first thing that I'll start off about the 400 years is a proverb in Yoruba, and it says, "Onto Junwa Lojunri." What the eye is looking for is what it is seeing. And if we start looking at 1619 it means that we have to forget over 500,000 black people who were enslaved before 1619.
Okay, so this is going to be interactive. I need everyone to right now Google 1619 in your phone, because the topic says 400 years, and there's an assumption that we're starting the 400 years from the year 1619. So for the young people, if you don't know the significance of the 1619, go ahead and Google that in your phone so that as we're speaking, you also have a reference. Thank you, Nana.
Very good. I was just about to ask everyone to pull out your phone because we're talking about Black History Month. So if there are any dates in history that you're not familiar with, you should Google them. I'm getting up in age. Maybe I have the dates incorrect, but I think I may have them good. So for example, if we're talking about enslavement of black people, we can look at the works of Manetho, as cited in Josephus Flavius, where he talks about the Hyksos. And these were invaders from southwestern Eurasia who came into Kemet and enslaved the people there. We're talking about 1550 BCE, around 3,500 some odd years ago. So again, I'm not sure if when we're thinking about enslavement, we're thinking that far back. But again, we can also look at the year 628 CE. And this is when the CDs, not talking about money. As soon as I say CDs, I know what you're thinking. These are the black people in Ethiopia, who are kidnapped from places like Ethiopia, Kenya, into the Indian Ocean, quote unquote, enslavement. So these are the people who from 628 CE were taken to places like Gujarat in India. So this is the Eastern diaspora that we don't often think about. When you look at them, they're some of the blackest, kinkiest haired people on the entire planet Earth, and they're still there. So again, this is what we can think of. And again, all of that gets wiped out when we start our count at 1619. We can also look at the year 868 CE. When I say CE, that's what you may commonly know as AD. CE is talking about Common Era. So in that year, 868, you're talking about the first known rebellion of enslaved black people in the diaspora. This is in what's now modern-day Iraq, near the city of Basra, and that's the Zanj Rebellion. These are black people who rose up and fought off their Arab enslavers. Again, this predates 1619, but think about all of the inspiration that we would get from that rebellion if we even knew about it, right? Now, we can continue on, into what most people are thinking about, or maybe not, but you can go to the year 1311 CE. This is where Mansa Musa, in his testimony coming back from the Hajj to Al-Omari, where he said that the way he became the Mansa is because his maternal uncle crossed the Atlantic and never came back. This is Abu Bakr II. Oftentimes we're thinking about transatlantic, we're thinking about enslavement, but we're not thinking about those who went across the Atlantic of their own volition. And again, Mansa Musa said that's even how he came to be the ruler, because his maternal uncle, that should be familiar to some of you here in Ghana, his maternal uncle crossed the Atlantic in 2 expeditions. First, the ones he sent off, the next ones that he decided to go along with, and when he didn't come back, therefore. Now, when we talk about transatlantic enslavement in terms of what we're thinking of, or maybe we're not thinking of it, you can look at the year 1441. Now, for anyone who's keeping track, is that before or after 1619? Before. Do we have any students who know math pretty well? So 1441, you had Antal Gonzalez, who was later joined by Nuno Tristal. He was sent out by Prince Henry the Navigator, who told him to go get seal skins and oil. But he had the idea, just whimsically, that led to every single thing you now know as transatlantic enslavement. And I'll keep it short because I think we have others talking. But, again, he said, wouldn't it be great to bring the first captives before the face of our prince? And you can read about this in Zuara's testimonial, his document written in 1453 called Chronica das Guinea, the Chronicle of Guinea. So again, is that before or after 1619?
Is it before or after?
Is it before or after?
Before, thank you.
So again, if we want to do 400 years, we have to go from 1441 to 1841, which is be celebrating the 400 years way back in 1841, but I think we missed the celebration. Now, again, you could look at 1444. You had Lancelot de Freitas, who enslaved 235 black people and took them to Lagos in Portugal. Now, is that before or after 1619? We have some good mathematicians here. You'll do well in the National Math and Science quiz. Again, you can look at 1502. This is where you had, Africans who are taken to, or who we now refer to as Africans who are taken to Hispaniola, So Juan de Cordoba sent the first black person over to Hispaniola. So now this is transatlantic, maybe in the way you're thinking about it. But again, is that before or after? Before. So 400 years, that would place us somewhere around 1902, right? And then you could look at 1510, you had Ferdinand of Aragon, who enshrined this idea, and I actually skipped to 1452 and 1455, you had Dom Diversis and Romanus Pontifex. These are the papal bulls, and by the decree of the Pope, he said that you should be forever, he said perpetual slavery for you, Saracens and pagans, he's talking about you, right? With papal sanction, now 1510, that brings us into state authority, where he sent first 50 black people coming from the continent, and then after that, another 100 to work in the mines of Hispaniola. Now, 1511, as soon as they got there, they were rebelling, because in 1511, you had the first known rebellion in the Western diaspora. Remember, Eastern diaspora, that's in Iraq. 1511, we were whooping that white behind way, in Hispaniola. So that was that rebellion. But now, most people say, okay, well, we're talking about 1619 because that's continental US. Well, you still have to go to 1526. Because in 1526, that's when you had San Miguel de Gualdape, and that's the rebellion in Spanish Florida, where we whooped that Spanish behind. The reason why some of you who are born in the US aren't speaking Spanish is because your great-grandsters whooped that Spanish behind and drove them off of the continent to the point where they were not able to come back. Is that before or after 1619? Before. Clearly before.
Hello, everybody still with us? Yes. Okay, because we had to dispel the myth of 1619, and it's very important. Continue.
Very good. So again, that's 1526. In that same year, 1526, you had King Afonso I in Congo, what's now modern-day Angola, who wrote a letter to João of Portugal asking him to stop the enslavement. That's again 1526, right? Is that before or after? Before. Very good. So if we want to deal with the 400 years of that, we should have been in the 1920s and the Roaring '20s. So again, we can go on and on. We could look at 1570, Gaspar Yanga, the first free society in what's now Mexico, called New Spain at that point in time. You could look at Nana Bincos Biojo in Colombia, who in 1603 established San Basilio de Palenque. You can look at 1605, and you can look at the Quilombo of Palmares. Is that before or after 1619?
Before. Everybody, before or after? Before. You guys still with us?
Are you very good? Now, even if we're dealing with 1619, they had something that they were calling Jamestown to Jamestown. And you even had people in government said that the first ship left Jamestown, Accra, and went to Jamestown, Virginia. Now, for some people who aren't laughing, let me explain to you why you should laugh. Because that ship actually originated in what's now modern-day Angola and Luanda. And it was actually on its way to New Spain when it was waylaid by privateers, meaning pirates, and then it was taken to Virginia, and it wasn't taken to Jamestown, it was taken to Point Comfort, right? Now, again, even when we're dealing with 1619, but I want to turn my attention to, if we're going to deal with 1619, people were dealing with 400 years, they were dealing with 2019, but let me give you dates, because we're now in 2026, so-called. Now, we can look at very important dates that end with 26, right? So in 1526, I already told you about San Miguel de Guadalupe and the letter. In 1626, this is how they started to get black people to kidnap other black people. So you can read the work of Jose Linya Nafafe, where he talks about, you had a decree by Fernão de Souza in Luanda, governor of Luanda, who put out a decree that said, before, all of you were bringing tributes in chickens and palm oil and timber, but he says, from henceforth, you have to bring tribute in other people. That's how they went from having to kidnap black people themselves to now getting black people to kidnap each other. If you're not familiar with that, you should get familiar. 1626, that's the decree of Fernão de Souza. You can look at 1726, you had a rebellion, the sugar mill rebellion in what is now known as Cuba. 1726, that's another significant year that we can commemorate. That's not just looking at the US, 1619, but looking Pan-African in that regard. You could look at 1826. You know Nana Ya Santiwa here in Ghana. How many of you know? Anyone? That's our town. That's our town. How many of you are familiar with Nana Zeferina, who was the head of the Urubu revolt of the Quilombo in Brazil? A woman who led that revolt and whooped that white behind in 1826. Now, how many of you are familiar? 1926, we should think about this, because we're dealing with Nana Carter G. Woodson and the founding of Negro History Week, which eventually became Black History Month. We can also look at the founding of Liberty University in 1926 from the UNIA, where we have a MOU with the UNIA. Now, moving from there, you could look at, this is 60 years of the Black Panthers, which was founded in 1966. We could look at, this is 20 years of Abibitumi, that was mentioned in my introduction, the largest and oldest.
60 years of the Day of Shame.
You said?
It's 60 years of the Day of Shame, yes?
1966.
Yeah.
Right? So, and we also have an MOU with the Black Panther Party Cubs, and that was founded by Nana Fred Hampton Jr. Again, we can look at, this is 10 years since in this very room, myself and 33 others received citizenship under President Mahama. And now to bring you to...
Oh, give it up.
You did a good job.
We're gonna pass the mic in a minute.
And then my last thing to bring it full circle, and this year, 2026, marks the decade of our repatriation, which was endorsed by the Office of the President. KOD just had to leave early. And this marks an entire decade where we are facilitating those who are interested in repatriating comprehensively, dealing with citizenship, but not exclusively citizenship. You have those who are interested in housing, interested in land, interested in all of these things. And when you are facilitating repatriation, oftentimes you hear people talking about reparations. Well, repatriation is self-reparations. It's what we can do for ourselves, not getting down on our knees, begging anyone for anything. We can say right now, you can come home, and that is restorative justice, that's reparative justice, and that is the decade of our repatriation, of which I'm the founder. My sister Nataki is a co-founder. So I want to close on this point of this 400 years. Where does that come from? It comes from something biblical that people are trying to attach themselves to. But if you read Manetho, he says that the Hyksos who were driven out, they came as enslavers of the Black people in Kemet. When they were driven out, they went on to found a town that you may have heard of called Jerusalem. So we whooped those non-Blacks, drove them out to Jerusalem, and nowadays we are trying to identify with those same enemies that our ancestors fought tooth and nail to keep out of Kemet, the land of Black people, and now we say we're the Black so-and-so.
So thank you, Nana.
Thank you very much.
For now, because
That's my full circle.
And whenever I saw the topic and I saw him, I said, okay, before we even start, we have to demystify the 400 years. So one of your takeaways already that you got in the first 5 minutes of the panel is that we can do further research to educate ourselves about this journey of the transatlantic slave trade. Maybe when did it begin? When did we actually start becoming the export out of the continent of Africa into the global world? And I think we can all, this is the importance, again, of Black History Month, and also how we integrate history into our curriculums and our school system. So thank you, Nana, again. I knew he was gonna bring it, and he did. It's a whole lesson in and of itself. So everybody's head is like, how does he remember all those dates? So moving on to T. Barnes, and then I'll come back to you, Majid. How Black History Month, where are we now? Given the fact that where he landed is we're returning, and I'm speaking of diasporans, but in terms of identity, in terms of Black legacy, African future, where do you think this conversation should begin?
So I'm a historian that never remembers dates. So this is impressive. I think history is only as good as your critical analysis of it. And the only reason why we need to understand what's happened before is so that we can understand very deeply what's happened, why it happened, how it happened, the good stuff too. You know, if we only see our history through the lens of suffering, we will miss a lot about who we are as Black people all over the world.
Yeah, clap for that.
The approach that I take as a historian is, for me, it's conceptual. It is the idea that as a people, we gain identity and we lose identity as we move through life. And I think for myself, when I think about this particular time period and this moment in Black history, I think about the new connections that we're making as Black people all over the world, the lack of borders, the globalism, the opportunities that we have through all of the social media and through AI and all of the things that kind of scare me a little bit, but also excite me for what can be. You know, when I teach young people, so, you know, typically they're like, okay, the dates, da, 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 da. But what they want to understand is who they are.
Right.
Because what happens is that when you don't understand what has happened before you, and I see it all the time, I see it in the US, I see it in Africa, when you have that lack of understanding, you don't know how you got here. If you don't know where you stand in the moment, you're not rooted in the reality of your own existence. And that makes it very difficult to connect yourself to the world, right? And so what I've seen mostly is that there is a reckoning right now of a reclaiming of identity. And we can use history as a way to be able to figure out spiritually who we are, which I think is probably the most important part of this. I spend a lot of time in healing spaces because I think before you can talk about the financial contributions of the financial ideas, I think before you can talk about even our reconnections, there's so much interpersonal healing that has to be done individually so that then we can turn back around and say, okay, I'm rooted now. I know how to talk to you. I know how to communicate with you. I know how to love you. I know how to listen to you. And then you can start to do that work interpersonally with each other and then the masses. I think, you know, there were some things I heard that I thought was really interesting. And they talk about this idea of like these spaces really being led by the elite. I always like to reconceptualize how we think about who the elite are, right? Like it takes a certain amount of resources to be able to sit around and think about things, right? Because when you are hungry, you don't got a lot of time to sit down and think about things. So a lot of these movements come because of commerce and the ability for people to be able to sit around and think about subjects for how we can push forward. So I want to kind of take some of the stigma around that idea and that word of the elite. There was another point that I wanted to make because I think it relates to all of this. And there was a young woman that asked earlier about socialism and communism and our leaders being linked to that and how do we get back to that. And I think that there's always this idea that we're supposed to go back to something. Exactly. We're supposed to go back to how we were. I think that the opportunity right now in Black history is how do we keep creating who we are? How do we keep creating this new thing? I'm really interested in who we are next. So when I think about this particular moment in history, I'm a little less concerned about the slave trade, to be honest with you. I'm concerned about what happened to us emotionally, spiritually, and intellectually that killed parts of us, and to recover that space so that we can reimagine differently.
Okay, so thank you. I like how you summed it up, that there is an importance to recover that space. And I like what she said. She said, I'm interested in who we are and who we are creating next. I love that. One of the things I just spoke about is the curriculum. And I know you are doing something, Wahid, that is very revolutionary. And I want you to talk about that. Because recovering and creating the next, I think that leads into the work that you're doing.
Thank you so much. I see myself to be in class today because I'm a science student. I'm an oil and gas engineer, so I'm science. So today, thank you for the education. You see, education is very, very important. Like, as I said, we are still learning, and we must keep on learning every day. And the history is one thing. We are the now of history. We are the today of history. Because everything about the past, it means we are the future. So I am interested in whatever our forefathers or ancestors have done in the past, we should be able to sustain the good side of it and forget of the sad side of it. So that because that's the only way we can heal ourselves and forgive the past and move on. So I'm interested in moving on and also leave the past for the past and then heal on and then move on. Because that's the only way we can heal our generation too as well. Because we look at the positive side of everything, then that is how we can industrialize. That's how we can develop. That's how we can grow. That's how we can network. That's how we can socialize. That's how we can create. That's how we can invent. So, as we said, education is very important because that is one key area that interests me a lot. That's why there was a time I was a spoken word artist. Into this Pan-Africanism, my spirit and the energy as a young man. Why are these people doing this to my ancestors? Why really dealt with me? Because all the answers were so confusing. So I said, no. So moving forward, so I decided that, okay, if only I'm on stage speaking about, Africa this, Africa that, we need action. So I decided, I said, no, instead of me talking, I have to stop talking. I have to go and put on my Wellington boots, as we say, and then go on the drawing table and then perform the action. What makes Mansa Musa great? I want to do the same so that I can also be great. That's how we learn from history. Because if they are talking about Mansa Musa as one of the richest man on earth, wow, then how come in Africa we are poor? How come that up to now some schools are still under trees? I don't understand, I don't still understand. So it means when you talk about African people, it means we are wealthy people, we are rich. So how come that today we are deprived, we are poor? Intellectually, today if you go to some schools, as I said, still some villages, they are still having schools under trees, which is so sad. If you go to some school, they don't even have libraries. So these are some of the things that interest me. That's why I said, okay, then as a scientist, then let me become a humanist. It's better. So that's why I established a school called Humanity Intellectual Academy. And today you saw the performance of some of my students. After I finished school, I decided, no, I have to impact knowledge. I have to groom the next generation. People that keep talking about Africa should be like this, should be like that. What have I done? I should be the example for my next generation. So that maybe in the next 400 years, as they are saying today, maybe in the next 100 years of my generation, should talk about it that, wow, there was a man called Wine who did this, did that, or maybe this my senior brother too. So we need to, as our lady said, she's interested in how we are going to create ourselves now. So I'm really interested in that too as well. And that is why I decided to be among young children so that I can impact them. And also Dr. Angela joined us, so she's not the headmistress of the school. That's how we impact the next generation. So I think that history is very important. But the only way we can heal history is we healing ourselves, because we are the future of history. So and then moving forward, we need to learn every knowledge, every wisdom of history so that we can use it to industrialize ourselves. Because one of the most important things is, I am interested in our economical state today. If Kwame Nkrumah has been preaching African youth, we need to come together. What are we doing today? We are not still united. Yeah, I should speak came to Ghana, as my senior brother said. Some African countries, even though that was his first time coming to Africa, but some African countries seems like they still seem like it's a different person. So all this tell us that we are not still united. So that means all these people, they die for nothing. Yes, because if only you are preaching that we should unite, we are not united. If our currency is not united, that's why we are not economically strong. That's why we are not security powerful, because we are not united. $1 is greater than the whole currency of Africa. What is that? What are we learning in economics? I'm not an economics student, but I think if I'll go back to school, I want to learn economics. Because I don't understand the fraction, the mathematics in these currencies. How can one currency become more powerful than 54 countries' currency? I've never seen something like that before. And we have the resources, we have the diamond, you can mention them. When we begin today, we'll not finish. Maybe I'll finish next year. So I'm interested in stuff like that. And then, so in moving forward, we need to teach our young generations how to industrialize all these so that Africa can be powerful. Yeah, thank you.
So I want to say thank you. And one of the things I noticed that each one of us here have also had an opportunity to create curriculum. One of the areas that I'll push back, I think that when taking a look at where we are now, I won't use the 400 years, but how we've evolved, I think it's a testament when we're all sitting on this panel together. I think I want to shout out Asaase Radio because for me, the Black History Month program, it came from Ghanaians. So I see that as major, major, major progress. And part of that, how we are creating ourselves and how we are designing and being the architect of our future. One question that comes to mind, our former speaker, Mr. Gabby Otridarko, did I say his name right? Gabby Otridarko, thank you. He talked about that there's 4 billion young people unemployed on this continent. We could sit here and we could theorize and we could philosophize and we could talk about history all day, but this is a reality that we see and we feel. So I would like for each one of you in your space to talk about something that you feel is a solution, and then what are you personally doing to make an impact toward decreasing that 4 billion? Because 4 billion strong, it's a testament to the work that we have to do. I don't want to say it's a testament from what our history is, but in the innovative space and what we create for today, it has to be a solution for our 4 billion young people. So I'd love for you all to speak about what you're doing in your space and what you see as a solution towards that.
So I'll start off with some of the things that I'm doing, and then I'll work my way back.
Thank you.
So for myself, I employ 11 Ghanaians. I have a moringa farm, 2 acres there at Ekwapi Mampong, so I'm employing youth there in Mampong. When I was first installed at Mampong, I'm installed as Bamuchi Domhene. My store name is Nana Kwame Pebi Date, Audikain. Piao. So, one of the first things, like in Awukude, they would talk about, the youth are using drugs and they have nothing doing and these types of things. So one of the first things I wanted to do is employ people full-time from right there in the community at Ekwepe Mampong. So we have those who have expertise in agriculture, my PA, like I have all of these people who every month I'm paying their salary. So that's one thing, is by actually giving them jobs. Another thing is, teaching them how to create their own jobs. So for example, in our second Abibi2Me conference, we decided that for the conference, everything that's said in English would be translated into Chi. Everything that's said in Chi would be translated into English, so the local population there in Ekwepe Mampong can get the fullness of what we're talking about. That's why we say Abibi2Me. If I am speaking English and I say Black Power, it doesn't hit. But when I say Abibi2Me, Abibi2Me, so now I drive up and down, they see me in my kantanka, and it says Abibi2 on the front, their children say, Abibi2Me, so the concept is getting out there, right? So that's one of the things. So I hired 2 interpreters. I spoke to one of my colleagues at the linguistics department. I said, I need some MPhil students who are very good. So we ended up hiring Ekua and Prempe as our interpreters for the conference. But after that, we kept them on as teachers. So now they're teaching diasporans online. And that's how I paid my way through my PhD program, as I was teaching Chi, Yoruba, Wolof, and then Medunecha online. And because of that, now they were able to pay their entire MPhil for the year based on the money that they got by teaching diasporans how to learn the language.
Clap for that. Clap for that. Thank you.
And you met them in the treat course that we did at IS. So those are just some of the things that I'm doing. I'm not a multi-billionaire, so my influence, what I can do. But as we grow in our abilities, then we can have a stronger sphere of influence. Now, there's one thing that Opening Gabi Ocheredako mentioned, which was about making Africa borderless. And this touches on identity, because I know the panel was memory. I covered that in my first submission. Then we're looking at identity. One thing that it behooves us to look at is in our own languages, how do we conceive of ourselves? And it ties into the employment and some of the things and what we need to do as a people. Because in Chi, for example, if I say Obibini, the B in it is coming from the same word as BDA, charcoal, and it's a way of saying black people. So when you're saying quote unquote African, where you're actually saying it's a black person in Chi. Same thing in Yoruba when I say Adulawa. The point I'm driving at is that we have some invaders that are still here in the land of black people, who are the Dutch Boers, the Arabs, East Indians, Indo-Aryans, all of them are invaders here. So for me, it's not so much about integrating with our first invaders, imperialists, enslavers, and colonizers, but rather, if we're uniting anyone, it needs to be uniting those Black people on the continent, those in Jamaica, those in Haiti, those CDs in India, those in West Papua New Guinea, those in Bougainville, also known as Mekamwe, Black people all throughout the world. Because if we are wondering about how we're going to solve the employment of our enslavers and colonizers who are, to this very date in Morocco, there are a 250,000 enslaved Black people. Now, Morocco was out of the AU for some time, but in 2016, Haiti, known as Haiti, applied to join the AU, and they were rejected. And it was said that according to the AU's Constitutive Act 29.1, only African countries can be part of the AU. And Haiti, which is blacker than any country on the entire continent, you can quote me on that, they were rejected on that basis. But then Morocco, where they have the word abid, which means slave and Black person, where they still, according to Global Slavery Index, enslaving over 250,000 Black people to this very day, they applied in the same year and they were accepted. And the only debate was how they're treating the Arabs in Western Sahara. No debate about how those who are trying to get to Spain and so forth, how they throw them out of windows, how they break their legs, how they, spit on the women and treat them like prostitutes right there in Morocco. You understand? So when we're talking about what we need to do, it's not all of the, people who happen to be on the continent that we need to be worried about. We need to be worried about Black people regardless of location, as Nana Marcus Garvey said. He said that he was dreaming of a Negro empire upon which the sun would never set. That already exists, but we don't conceive it as such because we're too busy trying to hop in bed with our Arab enslavers to wonder what we're going to do with Black people. Again, in Yoruba, Adulawo literally translates to Black person. In the Bambara language, they say Farafina. This means the land of Black people, and they call a Black person Farafin. In Wolof, they say Nitkunyul for a Black person, real Nitkunyul. So the word African doesn't mean anything, but as soon as we start speaking our own language and conceiving of this land and conceiving of ourselves in our own languages, that's where it becomes powerful, and that's where it becomes the authentic Pan-Africanism, not the hijacked Pan-Africanism, which is just hop in bed with some Arabs. If you look at the Igbo language, Allah in DCOG translates to the land of Black people. If you look at the Kikongo language, they call this Nsia Bandombe, the land of Black people. And you can go all the way to Kemet, which guess what? That means the land of Black people. And we call ourselves collectively Kemetiu, which translates to Black people. We call ourselves individually Kim for man, Kemet for woman. And the root word of chemistry is coming from that same Kim, which is a burning piece of charcoal, which lets you know this is the land of Black people. So our worries don't need to be so much about how we're going to employ everyone who happens to be on the continent. We need to worry about how we're going to employ the Black people on the continent and how we're going to make Kemet Black again and make this land the land of Black people once again.
So first of all, thank you. So from your point, you're saying that 4 billion doesn't represent
not all of them are us.
Abibane, it represents like all of the
Anybody.
young people.
Right.
And your concern is that we should be focused on
Black people.
the Abibane young people.
Yes.
And then by doing so, us unifying is what's going to advance our people in the continent.
Unity. So unity is there, but we've been striving for unity. What we need to strive for is Black power. And those sometimes overlap, but they're not always, because we have to concern ourselves with unify between whom and whom. And the point I'm driving at is unity needs to be Black people regardless of location, as opposed to location, whether or not the people happen to be Black or not.
Okay, that's powerful, and I want to say thank you. One of the other things that came to mind when you were speaking about the young people that were translating the tree during the Abibitume conference,
yeah.
and I thought that's major progress when you have a conference, right, and the content of that conference is also translated into the local indigenous languages for everyone to understand what's going on. So clap for that, because I think that's very, very powerful. And I think that's part of how do we see ourselves for the future and creating that next generation of innovative thinkers. I'll pass the mic over to you, T. Barnes.
Okay. I'm gonna come back to some Morocco stuff.
Yeah.
We're gonna come back around.
No.
When I think about youth, I think there's some very strategic things. When you think about this many young people under the age of 19, one of the main things that I think about is military might, which we don't talk about much as it relates to young people. But Africa with a proper military force could be absolutely fundamentally unstoppable. And I think before you can even get to talking about military might with young people and the numbers that
Not to
Africa.
cut you, an excellent example of that is what His Excellency President Ibrahim Traore is doing right now in Burkina Faso. So that came to mind, so thank you.
Absolutely. When I also think about youth, and some of the things that, I think the most important thing that I think of as an educator is there has to be a lot of deconstruction of ideas, specifically around like even the lenses in which we look through, right? When I look at young people, let's say in the United States, how they understand themselves as Black people, which is a very American lens. Blackness in and of itself is a very American lens, right? I don't think that that is an African lens. And so I want to think more about this idea. Now, is there space to conceptualize a universal Blackness? I think there's space for that. Is it realistic in a space where people are so identified by culture and by tribe? I'm not sure, but I think there's space for us to be thoughtful and a little bit more calm about how we approach some of these conversations, because we got to give people space to be able to say, you know, I'm really connected to this particular identity. And that makes it a more nuanced conversation, right? When we're saying we want everyone to unify. What does that really look like, right? And so what are the lanes in which we can unify? And I'll give you an example, and I think about this from young people because I think a lot of young people have a very hard time sometimes connecting to concepts that we maybe grew up with, right? It doesn't exist for them. I hear Black kids say all the time, there's no racism. I'll be like, huh? You know, but for them, life looks very different. And because they don't have historical context, it's also easy for them to misconstrue what they're experiencing, right? But I'll give you an example around kind of this idea of I'm taking a pregnant pause because I want to be thoughtful about how I say it. But for us as African Americans, our identity is really rooted in the space of resistance, right? I don't know that African identity is rooted in that. And as a young child, when I look at young African people, right, that don't necessarily grow up with these educations, and I think all of us need a deeper education. We don't know ourselves at all historically in any space. We don't know it in the African space. We don't know it in the American space. We don't take a lot of time to be able to deconstruct that. So at the very, very root of who you are, you don't know how you exist in this world. And we think about it as, like when we think about African people, we say, oh, but they have so much more of themselves. We say they have so much more of themselves because they have their culture. But when you look at an education system in the US and the continent, most of the education systems are completely European. Very, very few. I think Sekou Touré was the only one after independence to completely reconstruct the educational system to where it was African-centered first. So when you're talking about getting kids to a point to where you can even get them anywhere, they're still cutting their hair because Europeans wanted them to not see their hair. It was unruly. You know, we're still talking about, we're still living within this space where we haven't even really done the real deconstruction. So I think that it might be a little premature to start talking about this idea of unified Blackness because at the individual level of children, they have not learned who they are because their parents don't know who they are. I hear these conversations and they're very revolutionary, right? The ideas of them seem very powerful. And I think I'd like to just come back around to some things you said around, because we're talking about youth, but I think there's something in this idea that you talked about Morocco, right? Mm-hmm. And the North Africans, and mm-hmm. I live in North Africa, so mm-hmm. I'm constantly debating. I spent a lot of time in Ghana, so when I opened up a Black-centered space in Morocco, I got a lot of hate mail about mm-hmm. this, right? Africans everywhere are literally dealing at the same level of deconstructing all of the mess. It doesn't matter if they're in North Africa, it doesn't matter if they're in Chicago, it doesn't matter if they're in Ghana, we're all at varying levels maybe, of deconstructing the mess. And I think there's a level of
When
sensitivity.
you say the mess, are you referring to colonialism?
I'm talking
or-
about colonialism, I'm talking about
The Mahama.
notions of white supremacy, I'm talking about even just the way in which we have given up so much of our traditions. There's so many parts of who we are that were taken from all of us, right, at varying levels. And because you may have culture, we haven't even gotten to the place, I think that there's this very interesting, what's the word for it? It's like we like to think about it as a utopia, right? I know African Americans kind of approach Africa as this utopia, that you're gonna come back and you're gonna find some kind of identity or kinship. In my opinion, I don't actually look to Africa for identity, cultural identity. I really think African Americans, I'm a Texan, I have 7 generations of my family alive. We have deep traditions in my family. I know who I am, right? And we're a new thing. We started out with 5 tribes. There's thousands of them across the continent. African Americans are a new thing. I don't know that you necessarily have to come back. So when we're thinking about kids, like we're still trying to figure it out. So we have to be able to get to the place, even as adults, to where we're doing some of this work that's a little bit deeper than, I don't want to call it like revolutionary talk, but the deep, nuanced ideas of identity, the spiritual cleansing that has to happen for us to be able to really deeply reconnect with who we are as an individual and then collectively. And then you can start having these deeper conversations. Kids need to be, honestly, they need to be put in rooms where they're learning, they're going through rites of passages again. And I know that they still have that on the continent to some level, but you have it through the lens of Christianity, you have it through the lens of all of these other things. Like, there's so much to still wash away. I don't know that we're even completely ready to even think about kids, right? Because I don't know that we've done enough of it. I watch people all the time that don't know who they are.
Well, based on what you said earlier, we better get ready because it's time to create those new problems, those new discussions, those new brainstorming sessions that we have to have with each other. I want to pass the mic to Wahid, and I want to take some of your questions because we've been talking, and I know you have questions. So go ahead and get them ready, and we'll be with you momentarily. Wahid, I want to pass the mic to you, and thank you, T. Barnes. Thank you, Nana. Let's talk about the young people.
Yes. We, the young people, we are the new age. So because we are the new
Hey,
age.
are you the young people? Are you? When you're in Africa, the word youth, it has a different connotation.
You're in your 50,
So what's the age for youth in Africa?
and 50 head of the youth union, right?
And then and outside in other spaces like Western spaces, youth is what, under 21?
Usually.
And then youth in Africa is up to 40? So that's interesting. Okay, sorry. Because the youth I was thinking was your students, but since you
My
classified.
father used to say.
Because you were wearing the slippers like you're not a youth again, so which one? The way you have the slippers.
I'm not ancestral.
Okay, so get your questions ready.
Yes. As to Africa, we are young. If I say we are young, it means that we are highly educated and innovative, and we have all the resources that we need to move forward. That's what I mean by being young as Africa. So and then even though we need to guide the young people, like our elders need to guide us, so that we can know who we are, so that we will not deviate from what we are representing. So I think that for me, I really want to talk about a lot of things that is really happening in the continent. Things that are the realities. The realities on the ground. Security is one, and also if you look
When you
at
say security, explain.
yes, because of what is going on, like recently in Africa. I think that was 2 days ago. I wake up and then I was told that some people were robbed on the sea. I don't know that. So these are some of the things that because we are in Africa and then we are not safe. Even though he's black, I'm black, but we are not still, we don't still trust each other. These are problems. We need to heal from. You see, healing is very, very important. You know, and also history have what enhances why we are together and why we are not together. You know, yesterday I was watching a Nigerian movie, and then there are two brothers from the same family, the same father and mother, but their generation were having this disunity for almost over 100 years. And the reason was because I had a farm, and then my brother wanted to farm on my land, and I said, no, that's all. So my brother assassinated me, and then so it became a generational disunity. You know, so Africa, I think we have a generational care. If I say cares, it means that like we have pain, like tribal conflict. You know, this chief and this chief are fighting because of something simple, something that we can easily sit on the table and then discuss. That is why healing is very, very important. And also, I think that when we are healed, the continent will be able to unite. And also, our business will flourish, like Ochudaku was saying today, that we are talking about free continental free trade, but we are not borderless. Then how can we trade? And also, when you keep going to different countries, if you move from Ghana to Togo, you have to change your money. If you move from Togo to Nigeria, you have to change your money. If you move from Nigeria to Ivory Coast, you have to change your money. What kind of continent is that? So these are like, still, to me, I think we fail ourselves because we are not really living the smart we are. We are not really living the intelligence that we claim we are. Because
But I don't want to cut you, but I think that it's amazing that we can have that conversation now. Whereas before, nobody would ever think of to bring this up where, moving from here to Togo, you need to change currency. It's just what we do. It's just part of the worldwide economy and part of the foreign exchange. But today, you're saying it's painful and it's a problem. And I do think that that's progress, that we at least got to this point that we know it's another system that we need to dismantle.
Yeah, you see, Africa would have been more than where we are today if some of these things were there. There's a reason, there's a philosophical reason or prophetic reason why humans in Africa need to unite. And all the revolutionaries said we must unite. There's a reason. And then these are some of the reasons why today I can sit with my brother from the diaspora, and also we can think today we are thinking about to make Africa great again. But if we are not still solving some of these critical and real problems, our generation will also come and inherit it.
No. Our generation is not going on like that. So you speak for your generation. I don't know which generation you
That's the youth.
Thank you. I'm a young person. I'm not with that. So at least, and then I'm also the United Nations Youth Special Envoy in Ghana. So it's me that speaks on behalf of millions of people. And also African Union Youth Commission, I was the immediate participant. So, like, we young people, we are in pain because our fathers are supposed to do things right, and we have inherited it. So if I sit on any platform, I want to see the way forward, the actions. That's why, because I'm always with young people. They ask me some questions, I say, hey, I wish the oracles are close to me, so that I can ask the oracles what this means. There are some spiritual questions you can't answer. So sometimes we need to really make sure that we educate the kids so that they can see the reason and the importance of they becoming the solution to the continent, not the problems.
Thank you.
Yes.
I have a more I want to give a more succinct answer to what you asked.
Okay. I'll give you 1 minute because I want to get to the questions.
Yeah, that's all I need is 1 minute.
Before you do that, Mr. Elvis, how are we going to do the questions? Do they come up here or does someone have a mic?
I pass the mic.
Okay, perfect.
So the more succinct answer to your question, I think children need 3 things.
Okay.
I think that they need emotional intelligence and spiritual ground. I think that's where you start. I think after that, you have to give a deconstructed education and give them the proper tools to understand critical thought. And then I think the last thing is that they need to travel. They need to see more than the places around them, and they need to have a global understanding of the world because Black children are going to need that.
Thank you very much. Clap for her. I like the way she made it. Just 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we want to open it up for questions. And before we do, there's questions here, we want to remind you. So I want to say this to you, Elvis. Again, shout out to Asaase Radio for celebrating Black History Month. But we can never have a panel again unless we have some kind of table outside where young people can either tell us what their skills are, or we can, within our audience, help them find work. Because any and every activity that we do, we need an economic engine, or we need an employment opportunity connected to it. So it's just a suggestion, not just for Asaase Radio, but for all of you here, when we have events, we have to have this. 4 billion youth, and our Nana here says, well, the 4 billion are not the priority, but
The Black people.
our African youth are the priority. I'm with that. You find total alignment. So any and everything that we do, we have to begin each one, teach one, reach one. I think that's how we used to say it. So I want to turn it over to the floor. Hey, should we just go around the row? How are we going to do this?
All right, so we're going to take turns.
Okay.
But for the rules of engagement, we keep our questions short because time is not on our side. So we'll keep the questions short, and the answers will equally be short as well. I will come to you, so please do not lose your train of thought, please.
All right, down your question, and we want to know who you are and where you're from.
Yes, please, thank you.
We are honored to have you in our presence, so thank you.
This is the son of Kwame Nkrumah.
But now it sounded controversial, but it struck me because I heard the name Traoré, president.
Yes, please.
Louder.
No, I'm going about Burkina Faso.
Burkina Faso.
Yes. I think the earlier session, and then I think somebody mentioned his name.
Is it a question or a statement? Something you want to share? Okay, thank you.
Going forward, because it's connected with unity. What now? How we can develop Africa now, move forward, connected to the unity of Africa.
Thank you.
Yes. So the point now is that we can't have a military head of state or dictatorship in Burkina Faso. John Mahama is a civilian who was elected. They are not going in the same path. So how do you expect unity if we are all going in different directions? So no, I mean the truth is that, let me give a quick example of the renaming of Kotoka International Airport. Personally, I don't want to get too much into it because politics is not a personal thing. But most Ghanaians it didn't sit right with Ghanaians that the name would be Kotoka. Most people are okay with the change going back to the regime. So what I'm saying is that coup d'etats and so on were part of our history, which we have to accept and recognize. But moving forward, we cannot continue to have military dictatorship in Africa. We cannot continue to have presidents who want to be presidents for life. I don't think it's taken us in that direction. Multi-party democracy is not the best, but it's the best option for now. We can debate it. That's what I said at my Sun conversation. But we need to connect it to go to one direction so that then through legislation and so on, we can then try to deal with our problems. But if we continue to be praising somebody who's abusing human rights, and again, let me give a quick example first. In Ghana, I was in Form 4, the secondary school in 79. It was a brutal intervention. And later, Collins came the second time and ruled for 10 years in military dictatorship, and then later almost 2 years. His whole agenda was a crusade against corruption in Ghana, what was then referred to as Kalabudu. Today, the corruption is worse than it was in 79. So that intervention did not really solve our problems. I can say that Traoré seems to be progressive, some of the things he's doing, but I'm saying military dictatorship cannot be the way forward. The one-party state cannot be the way forward. So we need to realize that let's embrace the multi-party system of democracy and correct the issues with it. It can't be about money or you're elected. So we have to find other ways to challenge themselves.
Thank you. And we receive what you said, albeit that sounds like it should have been a panel in and of itself. So, our brother Nkrumah, thank you for sharing that with us, and we receive it well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, too. So the comments, questions, and the 1 minute.
Hi, hello. My name is Dara Adebanjo. I am studying in Ghana for the year, but I go to NYU. My question for you is kind of about comments that two people on, please forgive me, I don't remember names very well, that two people on the panel mentioned that they're interested in looking forward, the future of Africa, and like kind of less interested in regurgitating or rehashing the past. And I find this comment to be particularly interesting just because I believe that a lot of the things that we experience now as a global diaspora is based in historicity, and it is based in the material conditions that keep replicating over time. Just 2 weeks ago, I went to Elmina. Granted, I went to Elmina last year in September. I went again 2 weeks ago, and I went and visited the castle. And part of the tour guide again was the cell that they threw people who were particularly not happy with the way things were within the castle. And essentially it mirrored solitary confinement that we disproportionately affects Black and brown people in the US today. And so with that understanding, I can't not envision a history and like see it replicated to me in real time and not acknowledge how that continues to replicate itself over time. But yeah, I kind of wanted to.
Okay, thank you.
I'll take that for a second because I think it was probably me that said it. So I don't believe that we shouldn't understand history. That isn't at all my comment. It's that you understand it, you have historical context so that you can imagine the future. If you stay stuck in that space, what happens is that the anger brews, the sadness brews, and you're not finding the imagination. One of the things that as an American, racism, what it is a perpetual loop, and that perpetual loop keeps you uncreative. It's meant to drain your energy. And they want to drain your creative energy because they know that if you had 100% of who you were, they could never beat you. So there's a space for, we have to understand that is absolutely fundamental. I'm a historian, I teach children history. I have a whole summer program for it. But then you have to make sure that there's space for imagining what's next. It's both. It's and.
Thank you. Ms. Elvis, I believe this hand was up first, long time ago. You see how I got you?
Yes.
Hey, first of all, you have to stand up and you have to tell us who you are. Thank you. Beautiful.
The one question is, okay, it's a comment. Because I found out
Louder.
In Africa or in Ghana, the youth are put in the box and they are locked the box. They ask them to think outside the box.
When you say they're put in a box, who puts them there? The leaders put the youth in a box and lock.
Yes.
Hey, explain what you mean, because you're making a powerful comment. Hey.
I wish I could explain it better. Because now, and one thing is when the youth ask a question,
Yes.
you must ask this right.
Yes.
If you don't ask this right, they will ask you to sit down.
Yeah.
And that's the problem that you are having. Because now you cannot say that, oh, this leader is making a mistake. So I think that you can turn it right and it's going to be okay. No. So this is what the African youth face.
I want to push back on this just a little bit as an educator. When I ask you to sit down, it's because I want you to think about the question that you're asking me very well. It's not the sitting down, it's does the young person have the opportunity to stand back up and represent the question?
Do you know that there is a proverb that says that you shouldn't point your left finger
Yes.
to your father's house?
Yeah.
Yes.
So think that if my father is a thief,
Mm-hmm.
I should not expose my father.
I don't know about that. In 2026, we expose the people. Yes.
So that's the challenge that the African youth are having now.
Mm-hmm. So
Today the youth decided to go demonstration against Kalamazoo. Stop them.
yes.
So that is one of them.
Okay, so we received your comment that you feel like the leaders are not giving young people an opportunity to lead, and I probably agree with you. But if I ask you to sit down, that's because I want you to critically think about what you're about to ask me, just so that you and I are on the same. Okay, thank you. Say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. Say it loud.
I'm black and I'm proud.
What does that really mean? My name is Dr. Angela Harris. I actually gave the keynote address earlier today with our youth. And one of the things that we continue to reiterate after all of them doing their poetry and giving the delivery of intelligence of how history cannot repeat itself, but it has to move forward. When you say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud, what does that really mean? Because in everything that we have done and everything that we know, especially from the American dream, black was always something negative. And in reality, we're melanated people. But we've adopted the mentality to say that we're dark. Dark has always been something negative until we turn it into something positive. So when we say it loud, we're black and we're proud, what does black mean? I know that we recreated black because every negative thing that they have given to us as an identity, we have to reverse it and we have to turn it around to make it something powerful. So black for us means beautiful, living, ancestor, controlling kingdom. It means beauty from the inside, understanding your purpose and who you are and the power that you have from within. If we're continuing calling ourselves black, and then we don't understand the darkness of what black has represented, and we continue to accept that as who we are, what are we saying? What are we proud of? And that's what my question is to the panel.
That's a question or a statement?
No, that's a question.
That's a question.
What was the question?
The question
Is what are we saying?
The question is, what are we saying when we say we're black and we're proud?
Okay.
Because in our reality, we're melanated people. And we're all over the world. And everywhere that you go, no matter where you are, you're going to find melanation. Regardless if it's in China, regardless if it's in Africa, America.
No, I'm going to let you respond.
Yeah, I'm coming.
Under 2 minutes, because Elvis keep looking at me funny.
Don't you worry. Don't you worry. So I think it was earlier.
In BCE, there was no.
Yeah, I'm coming. So earlier it was mentioned that the idea of blackness is an American phenomenon. Even when you say melanin, it's coming from the Greek word melankros, which means blackness, right? If you look at the word Negro, it's coming from Niger, which is again coming from Latin, which again translates to black. When you look at Ethiopia, this is coming from Greek saying Ethiop's burnt face is what that's actually coming from. So all of these things, but what I'm saying is that when you actually look in our own languages, the idea that the concept of blackness is an American thing is not quite correct, because if you look at Nana Paul Bogle in Jamaica, what did he say? Cleave to the black. If you look at the 1805 Constitution of Nana Jean-Jacques Dessalines, he says, henceforth, the people of Haiti shall be known as Les Noirs, which translates to the black. If you look at Nana Steve Biko in Umzansi, South Africa, he referred to what he was doing as black consciousness. If you look at the Imale revolt, they actually had images of Nana Jean-Jacques Dessalines as pendants around their neck as they were expressing themselves as os negros, right? You can go, time and time again. Then when you look at the US, you find the Black Power movement, black is beautiful, black and proud, and so forth and so on. When we're looking at time, it helps us to conceive of time as our ancestors conceived of it, which is Pahor Pu'ank. In Medu Neter, that translates to life is a circle. Pahor Pu'ank, life is a circle. That's from the conversation between a man and his ba, which was given as a proverb for anyone who's looking for the original proverb written in Medu Neter. But this is thousands of years ago. We had this idea of life as a cycle.
You're saying Medu Neter.
Medu Neter, that's what they refer to as hieroglyphs for anyone who may be looking for that. So if we understand, so my teacher of Kikongo in Kulu Fukiao, he said that nothing exists that doesn't follow the cyclical steps of the Dikenga. The Dikenga is the idea that everything has a sunrise, everything has a high point of noon, it has a sunset of Luvemba, it has the midnight called Musoni, and it comes back around. So everything in our concept of time works like this. So I'll bring it home to make it plain as Baba Omar used to do. If you have buffalo that are by themselves, they will fight amongst each other and butt heads over territory, over mating rights, they do all of those things. But when wolves come around, they come together on the basis of what they have in common: shared ancestry, shared progeny, that's their shared interest of collective survival. That's what buffalo do. Now, if you look at fish, they come together in schools anytime that there are dolphins around or something like this. If you look, at zebras, they do the same thing. Every intelligent social creature has done this, including black people, time and time again. And the oldest example we have, I have a book called The Construction of Black Civilization, because it goes into the first sunrise that we have documented of when we call ourselves black people. What it tended to be is we have common non-black enemies who are right there at our doorstep. If you look at Kemet, right across there, you have these non-black enemies who we refer to as the Amu, right there at the doorstep. That's the first time in written history that we came together on the basis of being black against those common non-black enemies. It was the first time that we know, but it wasn't the last time, because again, we could look at Haiti, we could look at Jamaica, we can look at the US, we can look at time again, and essentially anytime we find ourselves in that situation, we come together on the basis of common ancestry, common descent. And again, I looked at it from the linguistic perspective. Anytime we conceptualize ourselves in our own languages, which many of us don't know, we may only know the American experience, but in our own languages, adulawo comes from the word edu in Yoruba, which I don't know if anyone here speaks Yoruba. That's the word for charcoal. Right? In Yoruba, edu. In Kikongo, kala refers to charcoal. Again, if you look at the Chi language, bidie is a word for charcoal, and we call ourselves abibifo. If you look at the Songhai language, the idea that black was always negative in English and in Cracker languages, but in our own languages, if you look at the Songhai language, anything that's powerful, they say wanye bibi to say the powerful son. They use it as a general adjective for anything that's powerful. Whether or not it's the exact color of black, if they want to say it's powerful, they say wanye bibi. If they want to say something is pure, they'll say I know Hari bibi. So when they're crossing the Niger River, when they get to the midpoint, the elders will say, I know Hari Bibi. It's the same Bibi that's in Chi. It's saying, give me the pure water. And it's by saying the black water. Anytime they want to say that the soil is fertile, regardless of what the physical color looks like, they will say, Sadiza Bibi. Fertile soil, literally black soil is what they refer to it. So the idea that black is always negative is incorrect, but if we are centered on the U.S. experience, we'll think that this is the first time we call ourselves black. We'll think that this is the concept that the blackness is coming from crackers calling themselves white after Bacon's Rebellion, and we'll neglect we found ourselves in situations like the buffalo, like the zebra, and to think that's the first time that we ever called ourselves black people, it means that we must be dumber than zebras. It must mean that we're dumber than dolphins, dumber than orcas, dumber than every social creature that comes together on the basis of common ancestry, common descent, because they can see, a zebra can see, this is my brother, because I know where I came out of, I know where you came out of, so therefore we have common and shared interests. So again, we talked about memory, we talked about identity, the idea of Sahem Kim, which translates to black power, Abibitumi. This is not the first time this is not our first rodeo in calling ourselves black people and conceptualizing ourselves. And that's what, last point, and what crackers really don't want us to do is that every single time that we came together on the basis of being black, we whooped that cracker behind. In Kemet we did that, in Haiti we did that, in Jamaica we did that, the Black Power movement time and time again. So they want us to call ourselves these fragmented identities. Africa, which is coming from a Roman term of obscure, vacuous, meaning, and not call ourselves Abibifo, because that tells us who we are, that tells us who is even supposed to be on this land. If we say this is Abibi mine, then we're not going to let the French take our uranium. If we say this is Abibi mine, we're not going to let these crackers take our diamonds. So I'll pause on that, but again, this is not our first time calling ourselves Abibifo, Kametsu, Farafin, Medamase.
So, Banana, I just want you to know, there are some of us that have been taking a tree class with him over at the Institute of African Studies. So it's one of the most beautiful experiences you can have. When we all started out, we were like just very uncomfortable with speaking an African language, and now I believe we're even speaking phrases. So I definitely appreciate having the linguist here to break it down for us. And for any of you that are interested, please see Abibi Tumi with regard to taking that language class, because we're still trying to corner him. And the language class is expensive. But you, Nana has considered us.
I've considered.
Over to you.
Okay, so we're gonna take 2 questions. I'm so sorry we can't go beyond 2 questions because we're right behind time.
Elvis, Daddy's hand is up, so he said the 2 questions is 1 and then 2. You see Daddy's hand right here?
Elder respect.
He used his age on you, sorry.
Hi, so hello everyone. My name is Na. I work with Asaase Radio, so I'm the host of Asaase Cafe. So it's the comments, and then I have some questions in there as well. First of all,
she said questions plural.
Plus
Because
comments.
she's Asaase Radio, she has 1 question. Nah. We have 2. We have your question 1 and then 1, 2. We're finished.
the second question is probably not for you, so
Yo.
yeah. So I'm super excited for the things that I've learned through this dialogue, especially. When Professor Harris earlier had said that we're all just colored people with different melanin tones. I nodded, but I really didn't get what she was talking about until Nana came with Manson was his uncle traveling across some sea on his own, and us being in Spain and all of that. So indeed, life, I believe, began right here in Africa. That said, you talked about healing. Okay. You talked about healing.
The camera's off.
Nah, I feel bad for you. So I'm gonna come and I'm gonna bring you the mic. Even though you're taking long with your speech. Nah, Cafe.
I'm sorry. So you talked about healing, and I speak for myself and a lot of my friends when I tell you that we are angry. Like, as Ghanaians, as black people, we are angry. And a lot of times we don't even know how to express it because we don't have the vocabulary, for this, especially when the damage is all around us, every day, everywhere we go. Where do we start from, this healing that you're talking about? And then finally, this is for the policymakers in this country, because I know this footage is going to be out there. With all that we've learned here today, I can't even stand here and say we've got like 5% of that in our curriculum. I'm a firm believer of if we want change, we need to start with the children. Like, we need to start from when they're quite young. When do we get all this information, in our educational, like in our basic educational curriculum? When do we get it there? So that our children will be equipped with all of this knowledge, so they can know where they're coming from, where they are now, and where to, move on. And again, thank you so much. Yes, how do we start deconstructing the mess? And indeed, every day should be Black History Day. Like, I'm so excited.
Clap for her. So now we're gonna take all 3 questions before we answer it, and we're closing it out. So now we have your questions noted.
Okay, so my name is Moya Kanban, and I've been a healer for over 35 years, studying. I'm a clinical psychologist, and I'm initiated a Kung in the tradition. So when I listen to people talk about healing, I'm quite concerned, because if we're saying that we don't need to go back to the past, then what are we healing from? We don't know who we are. And if we're and then we've had these cultures for over thousands of years that have a foundation. I brought 500 Black psychologists here in 2000 to learn about what healing is. These are people with PhDs. So I'm quite concerned when I hear a nebulous term of healing, and we don't function with an understanding of where we've come from to know what we're healing for and from. So I'd like that to be addressed.
Thank you, Nana. So we've noted your question.
All right, so we'll move on to Daddy's question then.
Hello. My name is Nicholas Niyama, and I'm a lawyer from the United States as well as a historian. But history is based on fact, because my great-great-grandfather is the one who signed the bond of 1532.
Wow.
Now, this historical document...
I'm sorry, Daddy, can you repeat that?
My great-great-grandfather, I'm a daycare by association. he signed the bond of 1844. And that bond stipulated that at a certain time travel, there will be a freedom or some kind of construction as to how we are going to rule ourselves. And this is much more of a commentary than a question. Now, we only know about 1844. We don't know about 6th of March, 1844. Our history has been abbreviated to the extent that we only talk about what is convenient, not to the details. Another point that I'm trying to make, and everybody should be paying attention to it, is that the bond of 1844, what the British have brought back to Ghana 3 weeks ago or 3 months ago, has been deposited at the mint. The Ghanaian mentality that transgresses into the parliament has not been given any meaningful discussion to this document, a very important document. Now, when the British came here, they gave us some respect. I don't know if you ask them, you get a respect. When they came here, they realized that my great-great-grandfather was a person of repute. So what happened? He is the only African king in West Africa that was given the title of King of Daytran. Go to Cape Coast Castle, and if you want to go to Parliament, and you will see, you hear the name Nana Ogechubu Daytran.
Thank you.
Now, the next question.
Daddy, is it a question or that was a statement? So now you're bringing the question.
Now, what I said earlier was a rhetorical statement. Now, the second, what really the question is that you referenced to Tory. Now, Tory is a military guy. What do you think about Tory? Because Tory got his budget from the Soviet Union. And they've done a good publicity to make him look like he's done so much for his country. But I can tell you, the budget is given by the Soviet Union. 3, culture. Ghana culture, it is stated that you can only, when we are going out, you can only be seen, cannot be heard. And that really depresses our creativity.
Thank you.
And I want somebody to elaborate if they have any issue about it. But I do. My book is coming out. But the fact is that we have to.
Thank you, Daddy. Okay, so everyone clap for yourselves. We got 3 questions. Tanisha, you're getting T-Barnes, you're getting question 1. Wahid, you're getting question 2. And then Nana, you can lead it. We're gonna close though.
Don't worry.
You're a professor.
Never fear.
And you like teaching.
Never fear.
But before I start, again, we're meeting this Sunday at 4 o'clock at the Institute of African Studies. It's called Addressing the Elephant in the Room. It is organized by the Black Agenda, which is a unified body of young leadership thought, a Black think tank that is coming together. So I hope I will see some of your faces there on Sunday, again at the University of Ghana, Kwame Nkrumah Complex at the Institute of African Studies at 4 o'clock. All right, so the second thing I want to address is I keep hearing this word, castle. So we got to stop using this word, castle. The word is dungeon. I don't want to hear somebody in 2026, as part of Black history, where we're calling this Cape Coast Castle. It's Cape Coast Dungeon, Almina Slave Dungeon. Are we okay? Yeah. Okay, so we have our panelists. Everybody have their question.
And then I think you can talk about Ibrahim Traore. It's come up twice.
Yeah.
So we talked, the questions were around the building, and I think there's 2 that really deal with it. I'll tell you what I'm doing.
You get question 1. You got question 2.
For the other
You get 9, raise your hand. You got 9's question.
Okay, your question.
You got mama's question. You got daddy's question.
Okay, so first, anger is a part of healing. And you should be angry. The reason why you get angry is because you have historical context. So you need to understand the history. And that means studying. Does it mean that you are going to get it at school? Probably not. What I did is I created a school in my backyard. I had 20 kids. Their parents brought them over to my house. I taught them every single day what I know that they weren't going to do. In the summers, I have a summer camp. I take kids all around the world. I start with history. I start from the beginning of time. I talk about how Black people really populated the earth. I talk about all of these things that kids aren't able to understand. African history, African American history, all of these things. Then when they get mad, I teach them emotional intelligence. I teach them critical analysis. I teach them how to process information in a way that's not going to be hindering through anger, but inspiring through action. And then after that, I create programs. Right now, my Healing and Restoration Center, and this kind of speaks to you, and I'll let him also take that. What we have is a combination. For my personal self, I went through a personal revolution very, very young, and then as I continued to go, it got deeper and deeper. I worked with indigenous healers all over the world. And then I also work with Black psychologists. And so I have programs where people come into my facility. We have Black therapists, different types of therapists, depending on what it is people are dealing with that are within our facility. So when you come, it is an exploration of the world, because that's how you grow and learn as a human. But it's also a space and time to be quiet with yourself, with these psychiatrists and with these therapists. In addition to that, we have more indigenous healing. So we have healers that come that have a variety of different types of methodologies. What I hope to continue to do is to teach Black people that there's many methodologies, and to get us to release some of these ideas around our own religious ideas that prevent us from getting to some of the healing. And then ultimately, we have people that are like coaches that help people go through after they've done the spiritual grounding, after they've been angry, they've done the spiritual grounding, they've gone through some things, to be able to plan a future. Because if you do all of that without the imagination, then you're stunted. So you need to know how to get to the next place.
Thank you, Tiva. Thank you. Nah, are you okay? Okay, and you can speak with Tiva and I can see they're standing guard, so I'm trying to hold them back so we can get our answers. They sent in the cowboy.
Yeah. So I'll keep my answer short. Mommy said something about healing. I want all the African Americans here to clap for yourself.
I'll take it.
Yes. Do you know why you're clapping for yourself? Because it's very important. Like me as a young person, if somebody tell me that many years ago some people came from my ancestors, abused them like that, I tell you, I'll hold gun there. Seriously. But because of the healing, that is why today you are not holding the gun, but you are using intellectual strength to fight for your right. So that alone is healing. For you not to revenge what they did to your ancestors, you not repeating the same thing to cause more atrocity, it means you are healed. So right now, it's not about we revenging and fighting, it's about intellectual engagement. It's about we knowing what is right and we doing it right. And we making sure that it's not, what has happened in the past will not repeat itself again. So that is what we call healing. And then healing is you understanding yourself and knowing where you come from and seeing the future is bright. That's all. Yeah, that's what I can say.
Thank you very much.
We got guns too, though.
I actually do have a gun. Yes. So to Daddy's question, there's actually a very good article by Dr. Farouk Kwerogi, and it's entitled 5 Words Native English Speakers Never Use for Themselves. And it's to the point that you mentioned about your ancestor being called a king, which is, very profound, because one thing that they did, these are the British, in 1821, they had a document dealing with correspondence in foreign courts, and the idea was, and let me pull it up, the idea that they had was that, they would only refer to black people and other people as chief. And that's something that we still call ourselves now, as though it's not a pejorative term. They said that they have a king, but what we have is paramount chiefs and chiefs. And for most of us, because we don't speak English as native speakers, there's no insult taken when someone says chief, but it's intended, the insult is intended. By the same token, they would say they have forests and we have jungles. They have houses and we have huts. They have nations, we have tribes. These are terms that we use and we never even question why are we calling out. So for example, if you look at Switzerland, the population is somewhere like 9-10 million. If you look at the Yoruba alone, you're talking about 40 million and going. But no matter how big you are, you're a tribe. And no matter how small they are, they're a nation because it's built into the language for them to say that theirs is on top and yours is on the bottom. And that's oftentimes why we don't want to say black, because in their language, white is supposed to be good and black is therefore supposed to be bad. But we forget that our concept of black is entirely different from theirs, and it predates their even existence, period. So that's that in terms of President Ibrahim Traoré. In terms of the budget coming from the Soviet Union, one thing I can definitely say is that they do have the Patriotic Fund in Burkina Faso, and this is where every single person in Burkina, from the lowliest, pauper to the most elite person, they all put into the Patriotic Fund. Actually have the account number for the Patriotic Fund to deposit into it. Yes?
Quick question, how many people here have ever been to Burkina Faso? If you travel to Burkina Faso?
Several times.
Okay, because that's our neighbor, and it's only a few hours away. So some of this we can demystify just by us going there to see with our eyes.
Right.
So he said he has the account number.
I have the account number, so anyone who wants to contribute. So for me, I put a proposition at their diaspora summit where they should have treasury bills for any of us in the diaspora who want to invest, because for me it's an embarrassment to even go to the Soviet Union or Russia or wherever to ask for anything. That should be on our responsibility if we want to contribute and wean them away from that. And then also just quickly, this idea of, generally we speak in generalities about respect for elders, but there are proverbs such as Opening Bonne, a bad elder is woken up with the left foot, right? Opening Bonne na oda Asaase. Obia wambone brayena oda Asaase. So there are proverbs, and then also what you actually see is that the ruler only rules at behest of the people. So if the youth, who are supposedly deferent to the person, if that person, I remember reading news articles a couple years ago, there was a traditional ruler who was abusing the youth pulled off his cloth, took off his sandals, patted him on the top of the head, and away with him. So this is someone who is an elder in an esteemed position, but our thing is not let them eat cake off with his head, that we only rule. There's a proverb that says, that one who wants to be Ohene has to learn service ahead of time, because this is the head servant of the people in our own conception. Once the British came, it started to change up, but that's not our concept. And the last thing, I want to give people some of the sources of some of the things that I was mentioning a bit earlier. So there's a book called Black Islam, and that one is going into enslavement there in Morocco. So, Black Morocco is dealing with enslavement on Islam and things along those lines. The book that I mentioned that I have coming out soon is called The Construction of Black Civilization, and is looking at primary sources from classical Kemet, where not only do we call ourselves black people, but we actually operationalize that by building walls to keep non-black people out of Kemet for 2,000 solid years. Anytime they came in, how we drove them out. So that's there. The dates that I was giving you originally, I have an article that was the award-winning article that won the Provost Publications Award called 400 Years, Ancestors Disappear. And the subtitle was Historical Disorientation, Misorientation in the 400 Years Narrative and Year of Return. So the idea of 400 years is coming from not knowing the enslavement processes and the rebellions that happened long before those 400 years. So anyone who is interested in that, you can check that one out as well.
I wanted to pause.
I just wanted to give some references, so see me for additional references, because everything that I've told you, there are very, very clear references, and it's your duty. This isn't church, so you're not supposed to believe anything I say. You're supposed to research the things that I know you can know to and extend on that knowledge.
Okay, I know you wanted to do, but I wanted to say something. There are three things that you can take away from this panel. So the first thing is
We're rounding up
what,
now.
yes,
Yeah.
is what Nana just said, is that our history predates 400 years.
Correct.
The second thing, we are laying to rest the term capitals. And then the third thing I will take away from you, we are laying to rest the term tribe. Are we okay with that?
Yeah, fine.
Can we agree with that? So those are 3 takeaways from this year's Black History Month Summit for this panel. Back over to you, Elvis. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So obviously I'm taking something away as well, which she just rounded it up. No more castles.
No more castles.
No more tribes. No more chiefs.
No more chiefs.
I don't know about chiefs.
You gotta get rid of that too.
No more boundaries in Africa, right?
No more boundaries. Thank you.
Among black people.
Right, I know you want more. We have to put this together again, perhaps in the period. But I want to say thank you.
Give a shout out to Asaase Radio. I'm interrupting her. Shout out to the staff of Asaase Radio 99.5 FM.
Absolutely, Shannon. Thank you so much. Let me hear a resounding applause.